Well, it was a good opportunity. I think where the program is, Coach Tucker, those are, was probably the motivating factors, and also, a little more responsibility. We're coming from as a defensive ends coach to now having the responsibility of the whole defensive line. Was, I guess another step in my progression in my career also. Well, of course, ultimately defensive line is going to be my responsibility. But Brandon's specialty in the pass rush really, bodes well to bring a whole different element and take it to another level, a focus. But it makes it really good because you have, normally a coach, you got all those guys and trying to get a lot of stuff done. It creates an opportunity to kind of separate and get a little bit more attention. Helps the players out because of the focus and the development, in that particular area. The game has changed. You figure when I came into the league, you had a lot more running the ball and being able to be more of a run. You got to stop the run, then the pass. Now, especially going in, for those young men that have aspirations to play on the next level, it's pass first, run second now. And so we're able to develop guys. Not to say we're deviating from playing a run. We're going to be, we can't go after the quarterback, at least in college, unless we stop the run first. But the development of those guys, so if they do have an opportunity to go to that next level, that'll put them that much further ahead and the ability to stay on the roster. And then when we do get in third and long, hopefully that they've developed enough, gotten better to where we're better at getting to the quarterback. Two really good players, two really good young men, and the thing now is just, for them, is to fight the complacency, to develop some consistency and also to get better. Because even with as good as they played throughout the season, there's still areas in which they can get better. And so it's my job as a coach to challenge them and also to make sure that they continue to grow in the areas that they are deficient and get even better at those things that they do well. So, phenomenal young men, and it's been a pleasure so far to coach them. Yes, and we've talked about that. I've told the guys, almost as a team, the team will go as those guys go, and so the work, the focus, the attention, health, is going to be important to have all those guys ready to go and continue to develop so that, they can be what we need them to be in order to have a successful defense and a successful football team. Well, fortunately, I'm a father, So I have, children that are basically a part of this generation, So I think sometimes, as an adult, being, an older guy, say how old I am, but you can probably figure that out. I'm a mature dude, that, you kind of lose sight or kind of think back to when I was their age, but it's different. It's a different day and age, with the technology and the exposure to more information. And actually the athletes come into college now more developed. You got all these, you figure like even for Coach BT, he was working not only with the pros before he got here, he was working with young high school athletes too. So the kids come in a little bit more developed. So you can almost demand and expect a little bit more on the field. But then they're still 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. And they a lot of times think they know a lot of things and, having the understanding that they have a lot of information, but deciphering how that information really can be utilized to grow as opposed to using it in the wrong fashion. That's where now the mentorship as a coach, beyond just the field comes into play, And, fortunately, like I said, being a father and the experience I had at Georgia Tech, working with the players and things of that nature has been helpful. I think the biggest thing is listening. And so, and I'm still learning too. As a father, every day is different, and the world is ever evolving. So as an adult, I have to do the same so that I can have myself in a position to where I can, help these young men make the right decisions and do the right things, off the field, and on the field. I guess, football is my passion. I love it. Even while I was working within the financial service industry, my niche was the professional athletes. And then as I acquired clients that were football players specifically, I found myself, after we kind of got all the portfolios and stuff together, watching them play, and I'm telling them, hey, man, you need to bend your knees, you need to use your hands. I'm coaching them on football. I ain't talking about it. I'm so like, well, you know what? it's still in me, you know what I mean? And so I figured, you know, physically, if I am going to do it, now is the time, you know what I mean? Because I as a player, one of the things that I would have liked more of is having coaches that could, you know, not necessarily do exactly that, but had the physical ability to at least halfway demonstrate. And so now, you know, I'm physically able to go out and then, you know, do certain things to at least give an idea of what it looks like. Because sometimes, you know, you can tell, you can point, but sometimes you need somebody to at least show me, kind of, you know what I mean? Because I'm gonna go slow as hell. I ain't gonna do it exactly like I ain't do it, but at least I can halfway, you know what I mean? And I think that was important to me. I can always, as long as I got all my faculties about me, get back into the financial services industry. I don't know how I'm gonna handle all this damn. I've been away so long from it. This cryptocurrency shit, that's some stuff I'm gonna have to get myself back acquainted with, though. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm still feeling like I'm on the field. No problem. Yeah, we did meet. I was on the, like I said, I did the radio show, and then while he was there, you know, we had met. You know, it wasn't a strong just acquaintance. You know what I mean? Didn't, you know, I wasn't gonna say he was my buddy or nothing like that, but we did meet each other and you know, cross paths and talk from time to time, just in passing. So I would imagine that familiarity kind of helped, and you know, me being here, you know, but we didn't, you know, just kind of in passing, you know, knowing one another. You know, well, I think because of if you look at it, you know, as I was watching a lot of the games, a lot of teams were coming from behind, and so there were more pass attempts and more opportunities for people to throw the ball and pass rush. You know what I mean? So if you look at it, we had a lot of sacks, but if you look at the ratio of sacks to attempts, it kind of gets a little skewed. And that's what I tell these guys. You know, when we talk about, and even guys in the field talk about have all these sacks, was it on first down? Was it on second down? Did they get off the field on third down? A lot of the statistical things can be misleading. You know what I mean? And so, not to say they didn't pass rush well, but we can be better. You know, because once teams they get ahead, we get ahead. Well, Michigan State we get ahead. You know, teams trying to pass their way out of it, so they get more opportunities to throw the ball, which now we got to get off the field as a defensive line, and so the defensive backs don't have to worry about covering as often. You know what I mean? I think that's probably what skewed it, because of, you know, teams coming from behind so often, which is a good thing. You know what I mean? It says offense was handling their business. You know what I mean? So, you know, JP, as I always tear his last name up, Jeff, and 47. My favorite. He is my favorite player, to be honest with you. He's probably the only defensive end that's coming back with significant experience. We had the transfer, Chris Bogle, although, you know, he's a, you know, elder statesman, but still, you know, played often, wasn't a full-time starter, so still has to get a little better. And I will say that is the area where we lack some experience. And while this spring is extremely important, you're getting those guys as many reps as possible, so that we can have ourselves ready to go when we start the fall. Well, you know, I was pretty engulfed with, you know, getting my butt kicked at Georgia Tech to kind of walk away and watch other people. But I think probably the only time I really gave it a strong focus was at the bowl game. I really tuned in, not knowing that I would be here, but because they were practicing at Tech, and so I saw the guys, saw them out there practicing and in the weight room and stuff like that, and so I paid a little bit more attention to the team at that time. But during the season, you know, I'm so engulfed with what I was doing, I didn't pay much attention to the team, to be honest with you. It's going to be a matter of personnel too. I think sometimes as I watch this, you know, I've had now since I've been here to go back and watch the games, just getting the right guys out there. It may mean having a linebacker that's a good pass rusher, whatever. Just getting the right guys, the best 4 guys that can rush the passer. If it means 4 defensive ends, a couple linebackers, shoot a freaking safety, whoever's going to be the best one to get to the quarterback, that's where we're going to start. And then that's where Coach BT, you know, grabbing those guys that we declare are our best pass rushers and continuously developing those guys and doing the things. You know what I mean? I think it's going to start first with finding out who are our best pass rushers, and that's going to, you know, we get in those situations, having those guys on the field. Been working really hard, you know, and he's developing, he's gotten better every day. Very high care factor. And like I said, we're still competing and trying to figure out who those guys are. You know, Chris is doing well. And we got some other guys, and we're going to give some more opportunities. Like I mentioned, the linebackers, because we do have some linebackers that we're going to also give a shot, here in spring. So that's what we're still figuring out. I think it won't be until we probably get, at least midway through the summer when we establish, okay, hey, these are the guys, and we get a little bit more of a track record of them being consistent and doing the things that we're asking for them to do. Right. Well, I tell you, again, still kind of, going, battling a little bit of, lingering effects from the season, but he's been doing well. He's getting better and better. Again, that competition is still out there. But he's definitely in the mix. He's getting an opportunity to go out there and pass rush. So we'll see. Like I said, we still don't. We're still figuring out who those guys are. To be honest with you, being there and and developing a relationship with those high school coaches, and then also my having played at Georgia Tech, living in Atlanta, I have a lot of personal relationships too. So I can definitely help at least, get some inroads with certain folks to help us within that the recruiting in that area. But we're still working. It's tough though. You figure, a young man that's in Georgia, you're battling, a lot of schools to come up this way before, you figure, that the Southeast, it's a lot of opportunities, to get them out. That's a tough recruiting area, just to. Within the ACC and the SEC, let alone now, hey kid, I'm trying to get you to come up to Michigan, you know what I mean? So it's a very competitive area to recruit, but with the relationships I have and Mel, we feel that we'll be able to compete with those guys in that area. It's definitely gotten better. That's one of the things. I'm from Ohio originally. I grew up in Dayton, Ohio, and the disadvantage that a lot of the young players up this way have is that they don't have spring football. Those kids, if you think about it, if you're in high school, for 4 years, you got, 4 spring football with 3 spring football, probably 4. So that's like almost a whole another year of football development that a young man will get. So they come a little bit more ready than a lot of sometimes, I don't say all the time, young men that are up this way that don't have that opportunity. And that's not just in Georgia, that's all across the Southeast. They just have more opportunities to get better, they get more snaps, Now, to say that they'll actually be better over the course of time, that remains to be seen. Being a young man from Ohio, I would definitely argue against that. You know what I'm saying? But that's what it is. It's just, and not just in Georgia, the whole Southeast, man. When they get that extra football, that makes a big difference. You know what I mean? So, but yes, same thing in Ohio. I still have my family. Friends, so still there's inroads there too, and it's a good quality of football, young players also in Ohio, and that's the area that we really got to make sure that those guys don't migrate south. You know what I mean? Because that's one thing down south I found out with those schools, University of Georgia and the SEC and the ACC, they're nationally recruiting, and they've had a lot of success, and a lot of young men up here, they see those guys on TV a lot, so they get enamored with it. Similar to myself, I grew up, Michigan State was an option for me, but I went down south for a visit. It was a different atmosphere, it was different. And then there was also a thing I wanted to see how I voted. There was this big deal about the Southern football players. Let me go and see what these guys are all about, to really see if they're what they're as advertised. So you got some different factors that we're competing against with these guys that are really good national players up in this area. To get them to stay up this way, you know what I mean? So there's definitely some good football right in this area. We just got to make sure they stay up this way with us. We'll go back and I'll look at that first day that we practice and look at the fundamentals and the techniques, because we got to be better fundamentally, and technically fundamentals and technique outdo talent every day, and that's what we have to be better at. Each and every day, that's what we talk about, being great technicians, and then you add that athleticism, and now we got a dominant football player. And so we'll just evaluate the things that day in and day out that we've been told to get better at: hand placement, footwork, knee bend, pad level, eye discipline. And as the season went on, and at the end of it, when we're watching those last few practices, did you get better at those things? It's not about the plays for me right now. We're not keeping statistical deals or whatnot. We're evaluating getting better as a football player. And so that'll be the things that will determine for me. And I know it seems kind of vague, but we keep a tally, as to how we're doing with those specific things. and we want to see a significant improvement in those areas. Yes, sir. I had a great time, man. Some of it, you know what I mean, it's not made for TV. But I had a good time. I mean, it was a great experience as a young man to do that. And, you know, if you know any good entertainment lawyers, I'm not getting any checks yet any longer for that thing. So I didn't know what I was doing at the time. If I knew, so I wouldn't have signed that.
One day you just show up?
Yeah. That's all it was. We just they asked some guys, and they found me as a rookie. I'm just excited about just jumping in there, having a little trailer, hang out, and gave me about $500-600, and I was on my way. Who knew I could have probably had $5 or $6 million at this point? Just down, just shit been rolling. So, all right.